Welcome to the Heroes of Fantasy Football podcast with your hosts, Pat High, Richie Kopech, and Joe Capozzi. Welcome to the lair. And welcome back to another episode of the Heroes of Fantasy Football podcast. I'm your host. We got everyone here today. Rich, Joe, how are you both doing on this fine evening?
Well,
Doing well. I can't
very
complain,
well.
really.
Nice. All right. So we got a fun little episode today.
Oh man,
We
One day
test
we'll
this
get
out.
that down.
Can't you tell? Can't you tell? Yeah, we test it out every show.
we just got out. We just got out of a heated debate on Bijan, so you have to
Yes.
bear with
We'll
us.
save you. Basically, I like Bijan, and these guys think he's not going to be good.
That's not
So-
what we
That's
said
not-
at all.
True at all.
That's what I heard. That's what I
I
heard.
told Matt that Bijan was not going to start, not going to finish this year in the top 5 running backs, and he told me the moon was made of cheese. So
I heard it. Cheddar.
That's what happened. We're here. We have all the discussions off air, and we bring them on. That's how we work it. But now let's get back to the episode. Things are going off the rails. We have a fun episode today. Obviously, we always start with a quick question. We got a little bit of news to catch up on, and then we're going to form our own Justice League. We have players. We searched long and hard, sent the invitations. These are the guys that we are drafting. We are putting our names behind that will finish excellent for your fantasy team, and we are targeting them heavily. So before further ado, let's get to our quick question. I know, Joe, you have one coming in. So why don't we break that down here?
yeah, so we had a trade question. The question was, it's a standard scoring, so non PPR redraft league, 12 team, and there was a trade offer for George Kittle and Cooper Kupp for Mark Andrews, Alexander Madison, and Tyler Lockett. And they sent the team. The team has Watson. Their running back core is Madison, White, and then the ones on their bench are Mitchell, Elijah Mitchell, Damian Harris, and Deontay Foreman. So not a ton of depth at running back. And then their wide receivers are Marquise Brown, Tyreek Hill, Amon-Ra St. Brown. They have Lockett, and then on their bench they have Burks and Zay Jones. And their tight ends are, of course, Mark Andrews, who was involved in the trade, and they also have Dalton Kincaid on their bench. What do you guys think of that trade?
For me, it's super easy. I'm keeping the Andrew side. Part of it is I'm a little bit lower on George Kittle. I know, Joe, you're a little higher than on him than I am. I think, Rich, you are as well. But I don't want to think about last year. He had a bunch of touchdowns at the end of the season with Brock Purdy, who's now been named the starter. But I don't really care for him this year. He's burned me in the past, and I know we don't try to take emotion out in fantasy, but sometimes it's hard. It's really just looking at the situation. Debo, Ayuk are the first reads there, and Kittle might be using the red zone, but touchdowns are not a sticky stat. So for me to downgrade a tight end and lose my running back depth, it's not worth it. Like, I would much rather have Andrews. Lockett, always drafted outside the top like 20, 30, always finishes inside the top 20. It's just how it works. And then to lose Madison and Andrews and only get cut back, like, he's got some question marks for his team as well. So even though he's great, there's enough risk to make me a little hesitant. So where do you stand, Rich?
I mean, for me, I'm also with you. I'm on the same side as far as the Mark Andrews and Cooper Kupp side, as opposed to the other. But I think for me, I'm looking at it a little bit differently. It's really just the actual matrix of her team. Um, it has no depth at running back. So giving up Alexander Madison in that deal, I guess is not really the way you'd want to go, because at that point, just to surefire your other spots, I don't know, it doesn't equal out for me. So that's why you got to keep can't ruin your one position just to try to fix or get a surefire at another, you know?
Agreed. What about you, Joe?
Yeah, and I agree. I think purely based on this trade, it's the lack of depth at running back that says no for me. I think I would consider it more if it was Andrews and Lockett for Cup and Kittle, because then you're downgrading your tight end, but you're upgrading your wide receiver. I could see making that trade, but then again, there's the injury concern with Cup. Is he healthy? I lean towards he will be good to go. And if it was just a straight up Andrews and Lockett for Kittle and Cup, I would do it. But throwing in Madison makes it a no for me, especially with
Yeah.
that roster.
All right, so we're all in agreement. So definitely don't do that. Yeah, but it's a good starting point. A deal can be done. You just look at what else they have. They can throw back another running back. Then it might be a little bit more enticing. But it really depends. It's all team dependent. So the way the team is right now, it's going to hurt you in the long run. Just to get Cooper Cup, it's not worth it. So all right, so we got some big news to go over. Uh, First thing, let's start with the good news. Josh Jacobs is now back as a Raider, signed a 1 year, $12 million deal. Uh, so he's back. You could basically treat him like you did last year. Just draft him a lot higher because he was really good. He's still going to get the ball a lot. Volume's still going to be there. He's going to be great, despite the offense being taken probably a step backward. I would think. I don't know how you guys feel about the Raiders this year, but Jimmy G is nothing special to me. So, but he's back. So far, all the running backs we've been kind of worried about on these franchise tag deals are ready to go. Saquon, Pollard, and now Josh Jacobs. So they're ready to roll. Where do you guys think the Raiders are going to be good? Like, where do you guys look at Josh Jacobs? Like, I think I have him top 8, but I think that might be a little too low as well. What do you guys
Um,
think?
I I mean I didn't have any fear that Josh Jacobs was not going to sign that contract, and I think he's gonna have a great season. I would definitely consider him an RB1 for redraft, and I would go out and get him if you can get him. He's gonna be a good fantasy asset. He's gonna get you points every week.
Agreed.
Perfect. All right, so now to the not so fun news. Jonathan Taylor could not find a trade partner. There were reports that they wanted a swap from Waddle to Jonathan Taylor for the Dolphins, which I don't think will ever happen. That's a little bit high, but the teams that I don't know if you guys saw this report today, but the Packers were actually in trade talks to get Jonathan Taylor. I thought that was a little bit interesting because I know last week, Joe, you and me had this as our quick question. We were taking a look at some of the teams that might be interested. They weren't reported, but um, the Packers were interesting to me. I think it's going to be really. This situation's nowhere near over. They put him on the pup,
I hate
so
it. I hate it
yeah,
so much.
he's guaranteed to miss the first 4 weeks of this season, and he very well could just use this, whether he's injured or not. He could use this and just those four games count towards his accruals to make this a full season. He needs 2 more. So whether he plays 2 games this season and then says, "Oh, that's it, I'm done. I have my season. I'm done," or if he is like, "Yeah, I'm good. I need a couple more weeks," and then just decides to essentially hold in. This situation has me to the point where I don't even think I'm going to draft him. Yeah, like if I have the opportunity, I'm pretty sure I'm just going to say, "Nope, you guys can take him." So, what do you guys think about this? Are you drafting him in redraft this year?
In redraft, I'm much lower on him. He's almost like I like he's kind of where he falls to where I had Kamara at first when we didn't know how many games he was going to be suspended. but the thing with JT is we don't know if he's going to play now. It's a question mark. So he's definitely falling outside. No shot he's in the first. I I'd feel comfortable taking a shot on him around like the fourth, fifth round range, maybe even the sixth, because it's a question mark. It's a gamble in the dark. It's one of these players that if they, it's almost like drafting Kareem Hunt right now. Like he's a good player, but you don't know if he's going to play. So you're just taking a shot that you're getting some high end value at a later round for a discount. So it's definitely makes me sad as a JT owner, but yeah,
I
Richie.
just updated my rankings yesterday after that news came out. It feels really bad, but he's RB 33 in my rankings because I don't know if he's going to play. That's with he's still getting close to 180 rushes in those rankings, but even that, he's someone he could finish top 10 or he could just not play and just bury your team. So for someone like that, I'm kind of just hands off. He's a landmine waiting to go off, and I don't want to be the one holding that. So what about you, Rich? Where do you stand on the drafting JT? Where you would be comfortable drafting?
Unless he'd really fall to me. And by fall to me, I guess I would say, I don't know, in those like 8 and on rounds. Like I can't believe he's absolutely still here. But I don't know. I don't want to touch him because I don't think he's playing this season. I think with the way that the news sounds, it's just not a good feel, not a good vibe. I want nothing to do with it. I'd rather spend the pick on something that's going to give me some sort of worth this year than that. So yeah, I'm out on him.
Yeah, it just sucks when we keep having situations like this, but unfortunately, this is what we're gonna have to deal with moving forward. So, all right, so why don't we jump right in? These are our Justice League picks. You can call them our heroes of each position. Each one of us is going to go down quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, one each, and why we like this player and what they can do for your fantasy team. So, why don't you jump in first, Joe? This was almost my pick, but you'll
Yeah, I was
see who mine
surprised
is in
it
a little
wasn't
bit.
your pick. So if it's not gonna be your pick, I'm gonna take it. So my quarterback that I will stamp my name on for this season, quarterback 8, Trevor Lawrence. I love drafting Trevor Lawrence in drafts. You can get him late, so you don't have to spend the first, second, third round pick on him because people are taking Pat Mahomes and Lamar Jackson there. I'd rather get key core players, wait, and then get Trevor Lawrence later in the draft, who's going to put up just fine fantasy number for you. I mean, last season he put up 25 touchdowns and he ran in 5. So I mean, you can't complain with numbers like that. Finished with the 303 half point PPR fantasy points for the year. Um, just overall, just solid quarterback for a discounted price that you can get mid round. And his team's only gotten better. They have Tanks Bigsby there to help ease the load on ETN. So hopefully there's less injuries. ETN's still there and healthy now, so that's a great passing back for him. They now have Calvin Ridley there, who has looked absolutely super fast in training camp videos, and you still got Christian Kirk there, who has put up monster numbers with T-Law, and not to mention you also have Evan Engram, Zay Jones. I mean, there's nothing not to like. I think this offense is going to be really fun to watch. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be the focal point, and I think even if they're running the ball, I think it's going to be like little passes to the running backs, and I think that Trevor's going to be involved in almost, I'd say 70% of the plays. Um, Great quarterback, cheap price. You can probably get him, I'd say like fourth, fifth round, maybe sixth even if he falls there, and you can just get key players in your other spots and be very happy.
He's going to be so good. There's really three offenses I'm really high on this year. I get from years past, and the Jaguars is one of them. They're going to be so good. They're set up for so much success in this season, and a lot of that is bringing in these pass catchers and signing them to the deals. being smart with their draft picks. It's going to be so much fun to watch. So I love the pick. I'm actively trying to get him in drafts this year. Um, but there's a couple other guys here that I'm also okay with. So, Rich, you have anything to add to T-Law, or you want to jump right into your guy?
I mean, the only thing is that I do actually like T-Law a lot. I was kind of going back and forth between my guy and T-Law. So I'm very much in on him. I think in drafts that I'm doing, if I'm not ending up with my guy, I am definitely trying to go for T-Law. So, definitely a good pick, Joe. But so my hero, the man I will put my flag or stamp on, it's who I've talked about plenty of times before, and that's none other than Justin Fields. The man is the game breaker. We know we've seen it from week 5 on that he has taken the game by storm and pretty much just from then on out ran into the ground. I think averaging about 24 fantasy points per game. So um, we know he can run, but the question right now is, can he throw? And I think with what we've seen, I think as I've talked many times before, the additions of the weapons that he's been given, as well as the help in front of him to keep him upright, I think we should see better things than we saw last year from Justin Fields. And if we can see better things than what we saw last year from Justin Fields, well, that's how you win fantasy football. So, just there you go. Justin Fields, again, hopefully I can stop talking about him now.
Yeah, this kind of screams Jalen Hurts last year, and you called that, and basically look what happened. So he could enter that area. Got a wide receiver upgrade, has people healthy, brought enough people behind him to help him out. The offensive line looks a lot better than last year. Still not great, but good enough, I think, to utilize his skills and protect him a little bit. So I love that pick too. Joe, I know you're a big Justin Fields guy as well, as is anyone with eyeballs for the most part.
I have his helmet right over here. Yeah, I love that pick. I'm just gonna poke a little fun that I'm a Justin Fields truther. Drafted him at pick 1.7 in our rookie draft for Richie passed on him for Trey Lance that year. So,
Oh,
um,
you're never gonna live that down.
but
Everybody did. I wasn't the only one.
No, you were the
at the
only
time,
person.
I mean, I was very happy because I wanted Fields. I mean, I wanted Trevor, but I wasn't gonna get Trevor, so Fields was my second choice. So I was very happy.
Yeah, that was a fun. If for anyone listening, when you're in Dynasty League, go back and look at the previous drafts if you want to get a chuckle, because
Or
there's some
don't.
ones in there, or if it brings up deja vu and some bad memories, you might want to stay far away. But
Only do that if you have thick skin, all right?
If you're
uh,
taking Trey
it,
Lance second overall in a startup,
yeah,
If
it
you got
gets
Trey
fun.
Lance on your team, that's it.
Yeah, that's fun.
He just sits there as a
how
paperweight now.
how many shares of Trey Lance do you actually own? Because I know
Um,
it's two right now. Is it more than two?
out of the three, no, out of the three dynasty leagues that I'm in, two I have Trey Lance in. So I've whiffed on 2 out of 3 with that pick.
Yeah, should
Live
just
and
draft
learn.
better. Seems bit.
I mean, you are talking to the guy that's drafted both Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. So I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I've got,
Yeah, let's not talk about that.
yeah,
Let's move on here. So I got my guy here. I'm I was going back and forth between kind of all three of these guys. I really like all three. My guy is going to be Justin Herbert of the Los Angeles Chargers, currently drafted as a QB7. This one probably isn't going to surprise anybody because I've been in love with the Chargers this offseason, and my love knows no bounds. Basically, looking at last season, he's coming off a real bad season. The Chargers were just not functioning very well. A lot of them were injured. It was awful. So he came out swinging last year, 2 top 10 finishes, and then everyone got hurt, including him. He broke his ribs basically. still played, and I'm just looking at it. It's not his fault for last season. Looking at what they did this offseason. Okay, so they hired Kellen Moore as the offensive coordinator. That alone is good. They drafted a first round wide receiver, paid him a whole bunch of money, and kept Austin Eckler. All of those things, you should be on the edge of your seat, excited right now because they're all wonderful for your quarterback. So it's just really last year with the rib injury, he didn't rush as much as he did in the previous seasons, which kept his point finish lower. Once his baseline goes up this season, having Kellen Moore design plays specifically for him, that is going to skyrocket up. I had him as my quarterback 2 on the season last year in rankings. So I saw the potential along with a lot of people. I was putting my name on him last year. But in life, sometimes things happen and you want to be fashionably late. Well, this is Justin Herbert's fashionably late season. He's going to come out, he's going to swing hard, and he's going to finish as a top 5 quarterback. You know, he's a late 4th round pick. I'll pay that price all day long and just watch as someone drafted in that position where he's going who has the potential to be a top 5 quarterback. So, what do you guys think of Herbs?
I mean, I couldn't believe how poorly he did last year. I mean, it was kind of be expected with both Keenan Allen out for the whole season. Side note, that was the year I traded for him to compete, and he didn't play a single game for me. And then I traded him as soon as he got healthy.
So it's your fault.
It's my fault.
Heard
Mike Williams was hurt, and then you have just Josh Palmer trying to hold down the fort. Even he got hurt. So I definitely think this is a bounce back year. Keenan looks healthy. Mike Williams is healthy. Now you have Quentin Johnson there, as well as Josh Palmer, the fill in. Eckler's still there, and the offense just should, quote unquote, should be explosive. So I'm excited for it. I think you can't go wrong with Herbert with his rushing upside, and he's just a dual threat quarterback. Can't go wrong.
What about you, Rich?
Oh, I love Herbert too, you know. I think as far as if I'm not going to get the top three guys, which you know, it sounds in most of my drafts have really I don't care for, you know, grabbing them right now. These three that we've talked about have been my go-tos, and if I don't really get my hands on Herbert or I'm sorry, Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields, you know, I'm also cool with Herbert. So ending with these three to me this year, I think you'll be fine with.
All right, so let's move on to running backs. Now, Joe, I really like yours, and it's someone we've all in the fantasy industry been sleeping on, I think. So why don't you
Yeah.
give your
So
your verdict?
looking at the three that we picked, I know mine's a little higher up than you two. But I think even at that pick, he's a steal. Mine is RB11, Joe Mixon on the Bengals. I think people are just sleeping on him because he's a little bit older, but people forget that Joe Mixon plays on the Bengals alongside Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, and he's not just a running back. He catches a lot. He was targeted 75 times last season with passes. I mean that from Joe Burrow, who's arguably one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I mean, he puts up last season he had a monster season. He had a couple crazy games where he put up like unbelievable numbers. 7 touchdowns, which pretty average. But I think he's gonna have a good year this year. I mean, if you can get him later as like I'm not saying draft him in the first round, but if you can get him like third round as your running back, I mean, I'd be very happy with Joe Mixon in the third round. He's the workhorse. I mean, there's no one that's going to take touches from Joe Mixon on that team. I mean, they got rid of what's his name, Mr. Pirine, right? Was the backup? He's gone. There's not really any competition for Joe Mixon on that team, so he's just the go-to guy there. Um, he even took a pay cut to play there, which as fantasy owners we love because that means he's not there for the money right now. He's there to win the Super Bowl, and I think he's going to put up the points to show that. And you can get him a little later in the draft. You don't have to spend a first round draft pick or second round draft pick, hopefully, on a running back, and you can get him a little later and still have a workhorse running back in that slot.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. You really hit it on the head right there. So I think the key thing is him taking that pay cut. I mean, it really I think devotes himself to the team, shows that he wants to be there for what could be a good Super Bowl run. I mean, it's a high-powered offense. We do know how the Bengals operate, so you love to see it. P. Ryan going out of town is definitely a plus in my book. So all around, what's not to like about Joe Mixon this year, especially for the value of where you can get him.
Yeah, we've really come full circle. Remember earlier in the offseason, he was making, he's not going to be a Bengal. He's going to get cut. And now here he is being the same person he was. Nothing really happened. And we're all like, wait, we should be higher on him. Why are we so low? So, like, yeah, I agree. I like that pick. Don't sleep on Joe Mixon because he's primed. There's no one in that backfield outside of injury that is going to take him off the field. So just be happy. Wait, wait at running back, at your wide receiver in the first round. If you want to reach for him the second, go for it. He could make it to the third if people don't pay attention in home leagues, which that happens a lot. So definitely, I love the pick. All right, Rich, who is your running back hero here?
So my hero is Rashad White, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers running back, RB 24 currently. Rashad White to me is a very intriguing player in which I think that he takes this lead role or step into this lead role and could potentially really run away with this. There seems to be no real competition around him, although the rookie in town now is kind of giving me a little bit worry. The undrafted Sean Tucker seems to be kind of rolling in with some noise there. But other than that, Chase Edmonds doesn't really scare me. Keyshawn Vaughn doesn't really scare me. So I do like Rashad White for just the pure volume alone. I think just for that he will outplay his ADP. Definitely be worth more than where he's getting drafted for sure. With potential for more. I mean, right now it's understandable that you can't expect much from the Bucks offense, but I really do feel that everybody's kind of leaving them for dead just because Tom Brady is not behind the helm. Baker Mayfield, I know, is nothing to bring home to mom, but all I'm really trying to say here is that Baker can or has potential to do good things. Mike Evans is a fantastic player that has been known to catch passes reluctantly for the past um, many years, right? To get them down the field. Chris Godwin's also there. So Rashad White can take this opportunity to just, slam it in. And at the very least, all I'm really trying to say here is that if the team does, collapse on itself, right? Then what does the quarterback typically do is he'll throw for the check down. Now, I want to ask you, do you know who led the NFL in 2022 as far as the most checkdowns? That is one Baker Mayfield throwing for 40 checkdown passes on 335. Uh, it's the most. So here we go, bringing us into this season. The man who just threw for the most checkdowns is now sitting next to Rashad White on a team that needs to check down because they're not going to be able to stop anybody from getting to Baker Mayfield. So he will outplay his ADP. I'm not calling him as an RB1, but I'm just saying it's a good backup, good RB3, RB2 potential.
Yeah, I'm a little more. I don't really like the Bucks at all. So most likely, I would prefer not to take that risk. But I mean, the path is there. I do see it. I just choose not to follow that. Uh, so that could be at my demise. But it's more just fantasy philosophy for me. Looking at a team, if I don't think they're going to be good, it's hard to see who's going to make it and be a good fantasy option for me. But the checkdowns, I didn't know that. That's a really good stat. So I could see that propping his numbers up enough where I would take him and be more comfortable for volume. So I see it. I don't know. I'm really down on the Bucks. I know Joe, you're a little bit higher than I am. So
Yeah, unlike our resident Bucks hater Matt over here. Um, I'm much higher on Baker Mayfield than Matt is, and I do agree with Richie. I think White is a steal at this low for a workhorse running back. The checkdowns are there, as Richie said, and I think Baker Mayfield is a way better quarterback than Ritter. So I I could see the Bucks finishing over the Falcons, even with Mister Godsend Bijan. I'd feel I don't want to say it because this is a bold take, but I'd feel even a little safer taking White than Bijan in some instances because that the Bucks offense is going to be way more dynamic than the Falcons offense.
Wild, absolutely wild, man. That ain't gonna happen.
But
Bijan to the moon.
but White's RB24, like Richie said, if you could get him late, absolutely snag him. That is a steal, highway robbery in your draft. So
He's a target if you go zero RB or even hero RB. Yes, I agree with that. I'm willing to do that. I just if he's a an RB2, if I'm drafting him as my RB2 and I don't have one of those other guys, I don't know if I'm comfortable with that.
well,
You got to take a lot of shots
isn't
late.
your RB2 your second running back for that you're going to be playing?
Well, yeah, but if I get him as an RB3 and I don't have to play
So
him, I'm
oh,
more like that.
see,
I
I'd
prefer
be
that.
happy with him as my RB2.
Ooh, yeah, I
So
don't know. I don't know if I'm ready for that.
I like that pick, Richie. I'm high on White. If you, especially you can get two top tier wide receivers and another running back, and then you just grab White to finish it off. I mean, you're contending. You're taking that trophy right out of Matt's hands and putting it on your mantle like Richie has.
It's
Yep.
mine this year, so we'll just get that out of the way now. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm more out on the Bucks this year. It's going to be not business as usual. So they're not going to throw the ball a ton because they can't. I don't think Baker or Kyle Trask, because let's not forget Baker lost his job last year and he barely got this job. So we'll just leave that where it is. But all right, so jumping in my running back hero of the season, Khalil Herbert, currently being drafted as the RB32. Someone I'm really trying to get this year. He's being drafted in the eighth round. Enormous upside in an offense that is going to run the ball a ton. I already hear it. I can hear it from both of you too, saying he's the RB2 on his offense because Justin Fields is the RB1. I don't
He
care.
is.
I don't really care at all. It doesn't matter. Herbert is just someone this coaching staff put their confidence in this year. He's gonna get the first shot to be the guy in this offense. And he also did better than David Montgomery last year in the same offense. So he was better in 2022 rushing stats like yards per carry, breakaway rate, elusive rating, yards after contact per attempt. So he was just all around better. Didn't have as many opportunities because David Montgomery had the volume, but now he's getting his first shot in this offense and could be in for a gigantic 2023 season. I do personally view him similarly to Alexander Madison, who right now is going 3 rounds earlier than him. But if you really look at it, they're similar. They were playing behind a great running back last year. Someone drafted higher that always finishes higher, gets the volume. But there were glimpses where they're you could see it. Like they're pretty good. But now just because the offense that the uh the Vikings have, Madison's, up higher than where Herbert is. And I push back a little bit on that because I do think of them somewhat similar. But if you take the name out and you just ask yourself where you would draft someone who should get close to 200 plus opportunities in an offense, it's definitely going to be higher than the eighth round. I can guarantee that. There's a non-zero chance that either Deontay Foreman or Roshan Johnson could eat into his overall workload, but at his current costs, I will take that 10 out of 10 times. So I'm really high on Khalil Herbert. He's another person where if you go zero or hero RB, he's going late enough. He could be your RB3 or even RB4, depending on how you do your team build. So, what do you guys think of Mr. Herbert?
Yeah, I mean, I like him as my RB3 for sure. Um, Definitely not my RB2 by any means. But if you can get him, like you said, late in like an eighth, seventh round as your RB3, I for sure go ahead and grab him. He's the like you said, the clear main running back there outside of course Fields rushing. So any goal line stands, if Fields isn't sneaking it, it's going to be Herbert in there. So I like that pick. Good plug and play for injuries if anything happens, or even if you need to throw him in on a bye week. He's a serviceable running back.
Yeah, no, I also agree with you, you know. I mean, he's shifty, can get himself in the end zone off some random, stuff. So, um, as far as the plug and play, I mean, hey, I can even use him as a, flex play. So, he, in some cases, could be in your starting lineup, depending how deep you go, before taking a running back. So, he is still a starting running back on what should be a run first team. So, yeah, I'll take my chances there too. Why not?
All right, now let's move on to wide receivers. Joe, looks like we got
So
our first rookie in here.
yeah, so the opposite of the running backs, where I was the highest running back of all the three we picked. Now I'm the lowest wide receiver of the three we picked. I am picking wide receiver 37, rookie Jordan Addison from Minnesota. I just see this kid having a clear cut shot at ending as a pretty top up there wide receiver. I mean, you look at it, he's on a team that loves to throw the ball. Kirk's an excellent passer. You got Justin Jefferson there to take away the top cornerbacks. You also have Hawkinson there, and outside of those two, it's right up to Addison. I mean, if you look at the depth chart, I mean, the third one over there is you got KJ Osborne, who, if you ask me, would you draft KJ Osborne? I'd be like, who? So it's mainly those three. You got, of course, just Jefferson's going to get his due, but with him taking away that double coverage and got even triple coverage, maybe it's going to open up Jordan Addison to make a lot of these plays and get a lot of passes. Passes equal catches, catches equal points, points equals victory. It's pure, it's math, people. So you're drafting Addison, you're taking him late. You don't have to spend the top one or two pick on him. You can get him. Probably, I haven't really looked at his average draft rounds, but I mean, if he's the wide receiver 37, you're not spent getting him in the first, second round. I'd gladly take a shot at him later in the draft. I guarantee you won't be disappointed with his output, and leave it at that.
I didn't know we were getting a math lesson. This was
Oh yeah,
excellent.
you're welcome.
That was wonderful. What a treat for the listeners. But yeah, I agree. I love Jordan Addison. He couldn't have gone to a better situation, in my opinion. This was like the perfect spot for him. It it kind of reminds me of Devontae Smith last season, where they got AJ Brown, and now he can just play the middle and get used on the outside every now and then. But not being the number one target when you don't have to be, he's never going to be the number one because Justin Jefferson is there. So he's primed, ready. I will draft him everywhere if one of you guys don't.
No, just to really kind of put the cherry on top. I mean, to me, it's just another case of your Batman and Robin, you know? I mean, Jamar has T. Higgins, AJ Brown has Devontae Smith, and now Jordan Addison's going to team up with Justin Jefferson, and you're about to see the same thing happen. So, um, it's just really
Everyone
just
needs
goes
a
in that same
sidekick.
category. That's it.
All right, Rich. I like yours. He's someone I've been warming on. So let's make the case here.
So my hero at the wide receiver position this season is DJ Moore, wide receiver 20 for the Chicago Bears. Should have said that a little differently, but we all get what I mean. But so yeah, I know I was just about to say, or I kind of ended Justin Fields with now I'm done talking about Justin Fields, but we're gonna kind of go back into this a little bit. Um, and that they're gonna play hand in hand. It's a really uh, development thing that we're going to see Justin Fields take the next step. This is a make or break season. for Justin to kind of show that he has what it takes to be a alpha wide receiver, a real QB1. So how he accomplishes that is with the help of DJ Moore, a player that has finished as a top 25 fantasy receiver in each of the past 4 seasons, a player that consistently has gained, about 1,150 to 1,200 receiving yards and averages about 4 touchdowns a season. Now that 4 touchdowns a season, I'm going to blame to the horrendous quarterbacks play that he has been given throughout his career. I mean, the man himself is fantastic. He excels against man coverage. He's good at making big plays. It's just really the quarterbacks that he's played with. I mean, two are free agents right now, two are backups, and then that leaves you with Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield. So, I mean, this is definitely, I think, the best shot that he has at as it with a quarterback that he's had in a long time. I think he knows that. I think he knows that he can be the true alpha wide receiver one here, and there's no real competition to eat away or take targets from him right now. So DJ Moore is an important asset to this team. I think he's going to demand that target share, and with that, I think we're going to see an excellent season from him and Fields both. Now I'm done talking about the Chicago Bears.
Are you sure? I just realized I need another math lesson. We have three Chicago Bears as our heroes this year. That's
How about them Bears?
yeah, yeah, that Bears. Yeah, no, I like it. I've been warming up. I was a little lower on him because I thought DJ Moore his ceiling was kind of capped, but I think I have him actually as my wide receiver 15 right now. I'm very excited. I will be in on DJ Moore this year. What about you, Joe?
Yeah, this one hurts a little bit. I just traded him away in Dynasty. Not that I wasn't high on him. I think he's gonna have a killer season. I just needed more depth at running back with the JT questions. So I traded DJ Moore for a second and J.K. Dobbins. But yeah, no, I think he's gonna kill it this year with Fields. If you can get him, definitely take him. He's gonna get points. There's really no competition there for targets, and like we said, targets equals points equals wins.
Another math
Quick
lesson.
math.
Perfect. You come here, you get fantasy and math. Wonderful. All right, I'm up here. This is my favorite one out of all the guys I chose. This is the one I'm most invested into this season. Uh, Chris Olave is my wide receiver hero. Currently drafted as the wide receiver 12, so top 12 wide receiver. Obviously, that means high hopes, but this is one where I am 99.9999% sure it's going to happen. Coming off a huge 2022 season that had, guess who was the quarterback? Andy freaking Dalton. Not really a great quarterback, but was still able to get it done with him. So this year he gets an upgrade, and yes, it is an upgrade in Derek Carr. Olave broke the 1,000-yard receiving mark as a rookie. That translates every season. Usually they do really well in their sophomore season after doing that in the rookie year. So, one of the things I want to look at here is he also had the sixth most air yards in 2022 behind guys like Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson, A.J. Brown, and Stephon Diggs. Now, I hope you heard the one name you should pay attention to there, Devontae Adams, the most recent wide receiver that Derek Carr had at his disposal. So, yes, Carr can succeed down the field. He can succeed in this offense. They brought him in to do so. And Olave is going to be the de facto number one target by a wide margin. Carr has also been able to sustain a top wide receiver over the years, with most recent examples being Devontae Adams last year. And remember when Hunter Renfro was the thing? Yeah, him on the same with the same quarterback, same situation. So he averaged 235 yards per game last season. That's Devontae Adams and sorry, not Devontae Adams, Derek Carr. get my D's mixed up. I need a letter lesson now. Uh, but I think you could see a bump this year with someone in this position, and they're going to be in a division that isn't great. Their defense has a little holes, so they might be more competitive. So that's kind of what I'm projecting here. But there's other big names on his team. You got Michael Thomas is still there, still coming off the injury. Seems like the past decade. Kamara hasn't seen the same amount of targets post Drew Brees. So most importantly, Olave has all the makings of a breakout this year. High draft capital, athleticism, baseline stats in his rookie year. Like the sky's the limit for this kid, and I'm really excited. It's going as an early third round pick. If I'm really active trying to get him, I might even pay a second for him because I think that's going to be enough. So I love Olave this year, and I'm really excited to see where he goes next year. He could break into the top 5 wide receiver drafted next year. So, what are your thoughts on Olave?
I like the pick. I mean, it's pretty, as you said, he's a wide receiver 12 for a reason. He's shown us last year as a rookie that he's just a great wide receiver, and Derek Carr is obviously an upgrade. So there's no reason why he shouldn't do well again this year.
Yeah, agreed. I like Olave a lot. Should have a great time or great year. I mean, great time. But
Oh, he should have. He'll have a great time there too. He is in New
I'm
Orleans.
sure he'll have a great time. Yeah. Um, but yeah, and then I guess other than that, then it's really gonna come to next season, as you were mentioning. Top 5, I think that's still high, but I mean, if he really comes in hot this year, I guess it makes sense, you know. But good pick.
I got a bold take before we move on here to tight ends. Chris Olave finishes higher than Garrett Wilson in 2023.
No,
I can see it.
Okay.
I can see it.
Okay.
So
Okay. I
you heard it
like
here
it.
first.
we know you're a Jets hater. We learned that today. So.
Yeah, we found that out today apparently in
Don't let
our
Marson
fantasy
hear this.
chat. Yeah, sorry, but we'll move on before we annoy anyone else. But tight ends, Joe, who you got?
So the tight end position is really one that if you're not taking Kelsey in the first or Mark Andrews in the second, you might as well just wait and draft one. So mine's in between both of your picks. It's the tight end 10. It's David Njoku on the Browns. I just think he has such upside for a tight end that you might as well take a shot with him as your plug and play. I mean, if you look at the team, he's got Watson there, who should have a major. He can't do any worse than he did last year. So I'm projecting a major step up from last year. I mean, he did terrible, and now he's more familiar with the system. You got Amari Cooper there, who's obviously the wide receiver 1, but outside of Amari Cooper, I mean, you're talking about Elijah Moore and Donovan Peoples-Jones. Neither of those players excites me really as a top wide receiver. So, in my opinion, David Njoku is the second best target on that offense in terms of throwing. So, I mean, of course, they have Nick Chubb there, who's going to be a monster running down the ball. But when they're stacking up the line trying to stop Chubb, it's going to go to either Cooper or it's going to go to Njoku. And I think Njoku is going to have a good amount of touchdowns this season, and he's going to be a very serviceable tight end, putting you up hopefully that 7 to 10 point range every week for you to get you through that into those fantasy finals.
And Joku. Yeah,
Yeah,
I love it. And Joke is great.
So you're saying that Watson's going back to top 5 form.
I did not say that. I said he can't do worse than he did last year.
You heard it here first, folks.
We're gonna have a lot of we got to make a list on the website or something of takes that we did not say that you guys that we each heard, so we can keep track. That way, we have a running list because there's been a few already. Apparently, I said Aiden O'Connell was Tom Brady, so that could be number one. But yeah, no,
I mean, that has yet to be disproven yet because I hear good things about
exactly,
Aiden O'Connell.
I mean,
So we'll wait.
exactly.
in 6 games last year, Watson threw 7 touchdowns and 5 interceptions in 6 games.
Not great, Bob.
I mean, you
Not great.
can't do any worse than that. I can't imagine Watson doing worse than that this year. So
He could be
That's
Baker
gross.
Mayfield.
So you're saying elite?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, according to you,
Let's
yes.
leave the check
Elite.
down king alone, all right?
That sounds good.
Why do you hate Baker so? What did Baker do to you?
I just don't think he's that
Did you
great.
watch that game where he came in for the Rams and it was what in stoppage time, like a couple seconds left of the game, and he marched down the field and won? Did you watch that
Yeah,
game?
I've seen all the other games that he played, and it did not excite me. So
The
one
Bucks
game
seem
is
to
not
be
enough.
really in on him.
Well,
They
when
really
your
like
other
what he
option's
they
Kyle
really
Trask, yeah, I'd be in on him too. But
well, no, Kyle Trask looked great in preseason, so I don't know, man. I don't
I
It's
don't
yet to
know.
be
Let's
seen.
get to the next guy here because I love your tight end pick, Rich.
Yeah, well, so my tight end pick, I feel like it's a little bit of a layup.
Homer pick.
Also, might be a homer pick. I don't know. I might be a Giants fan, but uh, Darren Waller for the New York Giants, the tight end four currently. And I think it's just a little bit of disrespect because to me, I think that I kind of see him this season as level with Mark Andrews. I can see him arguably going in the maybe even in the fourth round, which he's not. He's going later in rounds. Kittle is still going in front of him, which I don't really see that. I mean, to me, it's going. My rankings are, Kelsey, Andrews, and then I would put Waller right after. I'm very much excited as to what Waller is going to do with this team this year. I think he's going to be a major focal point. Just that single drive that we got to see in Game 2 of the preseason, it was very encouraging to see Daniel Jones come out. It looked very poised in the pocket, find his big man. Uh, Darren Waller, and just literally get that ball to him in good fashion, and to see Darren Waller, take the ball and then to rumble with it. I mean, it just looked so good. And it's overall, it was great to see them march down the field and score. And they scored with the other tight end, Daniel Bellinger. So, I mean, if we're going to be running two tight end sets, if we're going to be running formations like that, I'm telling you, if we get into that type of scenario more often than not, the first read is going to be Darren Waller. So he is our big-bodied wide receiver, is with the tight end position smacked on on him. That's all.
I think my favorite piece of news coming out of Giants camp was it was a few weeks ago, and the beat reporter, I forget his name, otherwise I'll give credit, but when they were taking down Waller off the field, people were like, "Oh, okay, maybe his workload's getting low," and they're like, "No, I think it was Daniel Jones threw to someone else on the team, so he's in
Yeah.
line for a
I,
giant workload. He's gonna get the ball every chance that he can because he's got the talent. It's just for me, the only concern I have is health because he hasn't really been able to stay healthy. Other than that, I think his volume is going to be there. It's tight ends, so they're all pretty much terrible outside of the top two guys. So you're just chasing for third. It's really if you can get him a full season, I am 100% on board. I will draft him at cost, and I might even take him just a tad higher. Like I might reach for him because I do see his potential being what he was a few years ago and being a top three tight end. So I like it. Joe, what about you?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm just biased 'cause I'm a Giants fan, but I mean, if you look at the roster, our wide receivers are Hodgins, Slayton, and Paris Campbell. None of those guys scream elite wide receiver to me. You know who does? Darren Waller. So I'm taking
There you
Darren
go.
Waller any chance I can get.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna wrap us up here. We have my tight end hero, someone that I am very excited for as well. Chig Okonkwo of the Titans, currently drafted at the tight end 12. I want to jump on the Chig train. I'm there. The Titans are an offense that I've pretty much trashed for the past couple seasons. I have not liked what they have been putting out there. Outside of Derrick Henry, everything else didn't matter to me. I kind of had blinders on for everyone else, but this is a time where it's tight end, so I'm willing to take a shot. So just because they've been lackluster doesn't mean that they won't produce someone that provides value to your fantasy team. And for me, Chico Conquo is that. He went somewhat unrecognized for most of last season, rightfully so. Uh, he had 3 or less targets in 11 games and played less than 40% of the snaps in 9 of those. So wasn't really a true workhorse tight end. Didn't get a lot of volume, not a lot of looks, but he's one of my breakouts. We had that episode a couple weeks ago. He's got a really interesting stat that I love sharing. For tight ends with more than 40 targets, 350 yards, he has the second most targets per route run at 26.2%, higher than Mark Andrews, higher than Travis Kelsey, higher than George Kittle and Dallas Goddard, who are all being drafted a lot higher than him. So take that with what you will. He also had the highest yards per reception of the same tight ends at 14 yards. The next closest was Kyle Pitts at 12.7 and Kelsey at 12.2. So he can play downfield a little bit further. He's not just a dink and dunk tight end, middle of the field. You're just doing more check down, close to the line of scrimmage stuff. He Burks is injured. I think he's back practicing, but that injury he had could linger. He could be out. This is a team that outside of DeAndre Hopkins needs someone else to move the ball and be a reliable pass catcher for Ryan Tannehill. And I think it's got to be Chig. So if you're looking to take a shot on a player late, it's not going to cost you a lot. I think this is where it goes. If you're not drafting Kelsey or Andrews or any of the other tight ends we mentioned above, you know, this is going to be, I think, your best bet. He's got 12th round ADP. So I think he's going to beat that. So I saw you shaking your head, Joe. You're not on the Chig train with me?
You're acting like Burks like tore his ACL or something. Like he had
It
a
was a pretty big injury, and
he's back at practice already.
yeah, but those are injuries that could linger in the season. One wrong hit, and he could be out for a couple of games. That's all. That's all I'm saying. And if that's the
You've been
case, you're
you've
going
been
to
a
need someone
Burks
else.
hater for a while, so I
I didn't see the hype when he was coming out, and so far I've been right. Uh, I know last year was a little weird with injury, and then this year is kind of
you'll
it's
see.
yet to be determined for me. But
You'll
I
see.
don't think he's worth what
Last year
he.
he came out not in shape for football, but this year he's in shape for football and he's going to repeat what he was doing in college. You'll see.
We will
But on
find out.
Chig, I don't hate Chig. Um, he's just a tight end for me. He's just plug and play pretty much for me. He's not someone I'm going to leave in every week. There's a lot of other tight ends around that range. I think I'd rather. So this is the only pick I think that I'm going to disagree, Matt. I wouldn't put my name on Chig, and good luck to you.
Thank you, sir. I don't need it. I got the Chig man. He's here. We're ready to go. What about you, Rich?
Yeah, I'm in between y'all. I think it's he's like he's got so much hype going for him. It's kind of hard not to look his direction, but I think overall I'm with Joe here, for the most part, where I'm not just gonna like plug him in and like set and forget. He's more of like, play by the matchup, play the waiver wire with him, other fans and other tight ends around the same range. So you're really just looking for that touchdown, and he's very much touchdown independent.
Yeah, I mean, for me, any tight end is kind of like that. I like his potential this year to really break out as a true tight end. This could be the year. I know we say that every year, where there's tight ends that just don't do anything, but I'm hopeful that Chig is going to be one of them. He's set up for success, and I think he has the skill set and the opportunity to definitely be a staple on your fantasy roster. So that is going to do things for us. So we have actually our draft on Saturday. We're doing our Heroes of Fantasy Football redraft league. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Once we have that, I'll post those teams on Twitter or X. That way we have it and you guys can vote and see who you think did better. It's still so weird to me. It's twitter.com, but they call it X. So yeah, it's, I just want to do Wakanda forever. That's kind of what I do. But
Jesus.
so yeah, that's gonna do it for us. Hope you guys enjoyed that episode. Like, subscribe, comment on the YouTube. We
Next
want to hear
week.
from everyone.
Next
We'll
week
see
we
ya.
get
One more
football.
week.
Get
Yep,
football.
we're here. We're ready.
One
Thursday
more
night.
show before football starts. So
Yes. So stay tuned till next week. But all right, have a great night, everyone, and see you on the next show.
Peace out.
Thank you again for tuning in to another episode of the Heroes of Fantasy Football podcast. Follow us on Twitter at the Heroes FF.